Thank you for joining us on AccuWeather Weekend. You see some of those sights and they really are heartbreaking. It's a holiday week. Many are still trying to celebrate with family and friends, and to have that destruction is just really hard to take.
Yeah, anytime we see destruction like that, it is just heartbreaking. But like you're saying, especially knowing the timing that a lot of those homes probably had brand new, Christmas presents inside. And now they're left with the cleanup.
Yeah, well, we want to break down all of this for you. And again, we thank you for joining us here on AccuWeather Weekend. We'll take you across the nation as we show you the satellite and radar. It shows you kind of what's going on now with these storms. They have worked their way from Texas all the way through now into Georgia and South Carolina as we've gone through the overnight hours. So they have not stopped at all. The Florida Panhandle is still seeing storms. And as you work your way north, plenty of rainfall.
Yeah, this system's stretching all the way from the Great Lakes down to the Gulf Coast. A lot of lightning there down by Florida, where we've already had at least one tornado warning so far this morning. But that's not the only precipitation that we're seeing across the country.
This is true. We actually are adding in quite a bit more moisture, still trying to work its way on in here across the Northwest. We're going to take a break soon to come. So if you're waiting for a lull in the action, good news, the Northwest, we're going to catch that.
Yeah, pretty mild temperatures across the country, continuing that trend of 50s, heading out to Coney Island there. And that's not the only area where we're seeing fog. And actually, taking a look at our visibility map, we're down to 2 miles visibility in New York, which of course is not great. But when we compare to Boston, even Portland at 0 miles visibility now, New York's looking pretty good. Now, this is going to continue throughout New England, especially. We're seeing a lot of areas of fog, and really throughout the Northeast, we have dense fog advisories in place because of these visibility issues. Some of these set to expire later this morning. Some of them, especially as we stretch up towards Maine, will be in effect until this afternoon. That's not the only thing that we're watching, though. Take a look at the radar. There's that rain. This storm just because of the rain totals, but gusty wind, that is something we will be dealing with throughout the Northeast, especially into the Midwest as well, from Indiana into Ohio into western Pennsylvania. That's where we have these wind advisories in effect. And then as we look towards Buffalo, that's where we have a high wind warning, and these go through tomorrow. So it's not just today that we're watching the gusty wind, but
we're closing out 2024. And of course, as we've ended the year, we want to show you some of the best weather videos of the year. And we scoured social media, all of the videos, to bring you some of the most captivating images from around the world, from hurricanes to animal rescues, even some of the strangest weather we've seen. Here's Tony Lawback with a look at the top tornado videos of the year. There you go, the top 3 tornadoes, and we're counting down 3 days until the new year. So as we say hello to 2025, we know there's going to be some issues with the weather. And fortunately for the mid-Atlantic to the Northeast, we've got the rain working its way on through New Year's Eve. There will be some snow towards the tip of the mid of Michigan, but overall it is a milder pattern, at least for the eastern U.S. Some cool air will be working in, and there's some snow showers if you're in the mountains of Montana and Idaho, as well as Wyoming. Here we are at New Year's Eve, ball drop time, midnight, 50 degrees with a rain coming down. Ponchos will be needed for one of the biggest parties of the year in Times Square. 41 degrees is the AccuWeather real feel temperature. Heading into New Year's Day, the rain's still with us, so it's lifting its way off towards the Northeast. You'll dry out in a place like Philadelphia early, but for New York City, we'll still contend with at least a little rain for the morning hours. And that means we're a little soggy in some locations. The Mummers Parade in Philadelphia, good news, probably pretty dry. Like I said, maybe the sidewalks, the roads aren't quite dry yet, but we should dry out pretty quickly in the morning. Detroit, some snow showers coming in on the backside as this whole storm system drags in colder air. If you want the sunshine and the mild weather, head to the Southwest. Los Angeles, looking great. Temperatures in the mid-70s. Also nice in Tucson, where we're in the mid-70s, a little warm. And where we expect to be in Las Vegas. Tens of millions. Great tips there across the Northwest. Maybe you're trying to do that today. You will encounter a lot of showery weather, even some heavier rain at times as this storm system works its way into the Northwest. It means more moisture, unfortunately, for many folks. Take a look at Sunday. We do have those numbers going back towards 50 degrees. Medford, 50 degrees for you. Through the Southwest, very mild, and beyond most all this moisture trying to work its way through the interior West with some of those snow showers still pushing their way on in. Once we get into the afternoon hours, though, and into the evening especially, the I-5 corridor lessens quite a bit. There's obviously a lot of activity through the Bitterroots and the Wasatch even as we pick up some snow there as the storm system does slowly start to depart. But you can see Oregon, Washington, quieter than we've seen for a while. And this is going to be the beginning of what becomes a really big break in the action, as we can see heading into Monday evening. So the early week, a lull in the storms as we get a new high pressure system to come in, which gives us a chance to dry out. Quick peek at
I always love those holiday greetings. And of course, we at AccuWeather wishing everyone a happy holiday season. Thanks for sticking with us here on AccuWeather Weekend. I want to go ahead and start things off talking about the western U.S. because you have had storm after storm after storm for the last week, really. And that is something that's continuing on today, but there is an end in sight. First, let's talk about what to expect with this latest storm. Now, the heaviest rain is going to be a little bit further south than the last few storms that we've had, focused more on southern Oregon, northern California here. But again, it's an atmospheric river event bringing flooding concerns, bringing gusty winds. And because of that, there's a risk of power outages. Now, snowmelt is also a factor here because this is a little bit of a warmer system. So up in the mountains, we're seeing kind of a transition from snow to rain back to snow, with a lot of the snow really focused on the highest elevations. And that can also lead to avalanche concerns. I know in the last few days, we've seen some avalanche watches and warnings out. Now, let's talk about the rainfall, though, because most of us are really just going to be getting the rain. The heaviest rain, like I mentioned, that 4 to 8 inches focused southern Oregon. We will get a little bit of a break, but of course, not for long. Good things like this can't last forever. Now, we're getting ready to close out what is expected to be the warmest year ever recorded on Earth. But despite the continued increase in global temperatures, a new study shows global warming may not be speeding up as much as people think. AccuWeather Senior Director of Forecasting Dan DePodwin and AccuWeather climate expert Brett Anderson explains in this week's Climate in the News segment. Always a lot of great information there. Well, I know a lot of you are probably starting to finalize your New Year's Eve plans, and you might be wondering, okay, I'm heading out and about. Am I going to need a rain jacket? Am I going to need an umbrella? Is weather going to get in the way? Well, unfortunately, for some of you, the answer is yes. Let's take a look at our map for New Year's Eve here. A lot of the eastern half of the country, the answer is yes. You need a rain jacket, at least a poncho, an umbrella. I know sometimes that's not the most fun to be carrying around when you're heading out to any gatherings or things like that, but at least maybe one of those disposable ponchos, especially those of you who might be heading to New York City and that event with the ball drop. You're going to need some kind of umbrella, poncho, something, because you are going to be seeing the rain.